In today's video, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to take a look at today. Today, we're looking at some trade talk around teams like the Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers. Plus, the Columbus Blue Jackets are looking to add a couple of forwards. GM Don Waddell explains they're short a few players and are looking to the market to find a few players. I wonder if we could see them continue talks with Montreal, who we had discussed a few days ago. Plus, we have some more updates on the Canucks goaltending situation. They have apparently made an offer to a UFA goaltender. Plus, we also have a very interesting update around the Carolina Hurricanes and their affiliate in the American Hockey League. Of course, we have a new arrangement this year with the Chicago Wolves, and things are off to a really rocky start and could have some major implications. We'll discuss the story and everything else coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of things to take a look at here today. First up, I want to start with a quick update from the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers announced a variety of changes to their hockey operations department. The main one I want to discuss was former NHLer and longtime Flyer himself, Wayne Simmonds, taking a role here with the Flyers organization. Of course, we know he's been out of the game now for a little bit and officially retired not long ago. And his role with the Philadelphia Flyers is going to be the community relations ambassador as well as hockey operations consultant. So Simmonds, like I said, longtime player, played a lot with the Flyers, also had a few years at the end there with the Leafs, some time with the Los Angeles Kings. But the Flyers is probably the team that he had his greatest success with. I think that's where he spent the bulk of his prime years, you could say. I think most people, when you think of Wayne Simmonds, kind of identify him as a Flyer, so not surprised to see him end up working there. Of course, for him, though, going back to Toronto towards the end of his career, obviously was a homecoming. So obviously I'm not sure if that'll ever be something he wants to do, but I think from a family perspective, they're obviously quite comfortable in Philadelphia as well. So good to see Wayne Simmonds involved in a new role off the ice now that he's retired. As I mentioned as well, we have an update regarding the Vancouver Canucks. We know that they've got some interesting concerns going into the beginning of training camp, which, camps are beginning, getting ready to open. Obviously, we're not quite there yet. Most teams have their rookie camps going right now. And then, of course, regular NHL training camps are I believe like 5-6 days away, about a week away from opening up. So as we get ready for that, goaltending in Vancouver is a concern with the injuries of Demko and Shelovs. The Demko one seemed to be a bigger concern for sure. We talked before that there was a lot of talk they were looking to add an insurance piece, if you will, and they were very interested in goaltender Kevin Lankinen, who has played in the NHL with Nashville and Chicago. Lankinen had a pretty solid year last year with the Predators, and I really believe the only reason he's not back there is they saw an opportunity to save some money at that position by signing Scott Wedgwood a little bit cheaper, while needing every ounce of cap space they could get to go big game hunting for guys like Marchessault, Stamkos, and Brady Shea. All that said, Lankinen is now without NHL work and without a job and contract, and trying to sort out what's next for him. The belief was earlier in the last few weeks that the Canucks were trying to convince him to come to training camp on a PTO, and he has rejected that. But now there's word that the Canucks have officially made a 1-year contract offer to Lankinen, believed to be valued less than $1 million. I don't know the exact value. I'm going to guess somewhere around $800,000 to $900,000. Under $1 million is all the report indicated. And we don't know yet if he's going to accept that or not. Obviously, it's a pay cut from last year, but at this rate in the offseason, he doesn't have a contract. So if he doesn't take it, what else is going to materialize for the netminder? It's kind of difficult to say. But the Canucks are very, very interested in him. Apparently, there was some interest in a couple of teams, including Vancouver, I believe, and there was another team, too, that were interested in Antti Ranta. But so far, nothing with Ranta has materialized here either. A couple of notes on the Columbus Blue Jackets. First, of course, revolving around the salary cap, and secondly, revolving around them making some additions to the roster, which could come via trade, maybe through free agency. But of course, the beginning of this week was a very emotional time. Obviously, clearly the funeral service for Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matty. we knew the Blue Jackets were not going to address anything cap related or roster related until well after the fact. We're not quite a week away from that now, and I suspect into next week we'll likely see right before camp starts a few moves here for the Jackets, or at least one or two, at least I would think. But Don Waddell has indicated that through his conversation with Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, who covers the Blue Jackets, says that they are currently seeking some guidance from the NHLPA about how to measure their salary cap. I think there's a little, they need some clarity, some confusion. I'm not sure exactly how the Johnny Gaudreau contract is going to play out here with them from a cap perspective. Is there any, you would think that it just comes off the books, right? I don't know the language in the player contracts and how everything is worded in that sense, so I'm not really sure, what they have for insurance and all that on there. So either way, I think they're trying to seek out some clarity here between from the NHLPA to how they actually measure in their cap. So that's complicated. But certainly Don Waddell said as of right now, he's not super worried about meeting the cap floor. But if you take the Gaudreau contract out of the mix, then they are going to be below the cap floor. So I think it really depends on what he learns and what he's advised. But they're trying to figure all that out right now as this is a unique situation that during the salary cap era, I honestly don't know. I'd have to look back, but there's it's just a unique scenario that this is not something you see happen very often, really. Like I said, we've seen players unfortunately pass away, but it's just such a unique situation, especially with such a major impact to their cap, where Gaudreau was a high-profile, bigger contract, right? So anyway, so they're trying to find out from the league and the PA what they have to do and how everything's going to work from that perspective. But he does also acknowledge here to Portzline that they are needing to pick up a couple of forwards. They'd already moved Patrick Laine, then of course the accident happened that claims the life of Johnny Gaudreau, and all of a sudden the team is very different. So clearly he said that they are going to be looking at what's out there for UFAs, but in my opinion, there's really not much out there. One name that does come to mind, though, is James Van Riemsdyk. We know JVR is looking for work right now. I'm not sure how picky he's being. I don't know if there's a scenario where he really has preferences or not. I don't know. Clearly at this point where he's not signed, I don't know, right? There was reports that there was mutual interest at one point with the Leafs that never materialized. I don't know. Some of these players, if they're more concerned, and I get it if they are, about trying to win a Stanley Cup, they may not necessarily be super keen to sign with a team that's not expected to be anywhere near contending. But, you can go to camp, you can sign a one-year deal, you can try to have a good season and generate enough interest around the league that teams that are going to be going for the Stanley Cup are going to want to add you later on in the year. So I'm not sure exactly, like I said, how some of these unsigned players are looking at things, but JVR is a name that's out there. We also know that Phil the Thrill Kessel really wants to make his return to the NHL, wants to extend his career. Now, Elliot Friedman talked on his podcast here a few days ago that Phil apparently and his agent have been calling teams looking and trying to get something lined up for him, that he really wants to play. He just loves hockey. You have to think, too, like we're looking at his stats. There's some key milestones that he'd probably love to achieve as well. And last year he was not able to get into any NHL games. So clearly that's something that he still wants to do. But more than anything, Elliot says he just loves the game so much he wants to keep playing. I'm sure a lot of you had heard about that 3-on-3 league that was supposed to be becoming called Major League Hockey. I know I did touch on it, I think, in one video. When the news first broke about it, I did kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit more, but then after looking into it and researching for a video that I had planned, it really turned out to be a lot of it seemed really sketchy, so I didn't bother. But then I did talk about it once just to kind of let everybody know that if you hear news about it, it's really an odd thing. But even according to Elliott, Kessel even was in talks with them. He was going to possibly go play for this 3-on-3 league if it became a thing, because he just wants to play hockey. He loves it that much. So yes, he could be an option too. And of course, we had talked about rumors in the past couple of days, and I still stand by those, that there's some that believe that the Jackets are, except I would imagine that those talks weren't overly overly progressed, but at this point they could pick up. But the Jackets were looking to talk to the Montreal Canadiens again. We know the Canadiens have more than enough forwards, and I think Ken Hughes would love to unload at least one of a decent salary to get themselves out of long-term injury reserve. And I understand Don Waddell's first choice might be to look at the UFA market, but if a team is willing to give you a player for future considerations, then why not look at that as well? Obviously, have to be comfortable that the player is a good fit and everything, but, really, you're not giving up assets in those scenarios anyway. So I personally think there's lots of teams around the NHL that would love to offer up a player as a cap dump. I know Montreal's definitely one of them, 100%, and there is belief that they did have some degree of conversations around that before, so wouldn't be surprised if they pick up again. So between players that are, going to be looking to be moved in that sense, with Montreal being right at the top of the list, two guys like JVR and Phil Kessel, I suspect that we see the Jackets likely look into some of those options and add one or two of them sometime next week before camp gets underway. Now, a really weird, interesting story that I think we'll have to follow here is around the Carolina Hurricanes and their new American Hockey League affiliate. Of course, we know last year they didn't have their own dedicated affiliate. And this year, they had now they're affiliated with the Chicago Wolves. The Chicago Wolves, in case you forgot or didn't know, were previously last year, which was like the first of its kind, it was a new structure. They were actually an independent American Hockey League franchise. So they did not have an NHL affiliated team that they worked with. So obviously that meant that they were not getting, a bunch of younger players that were sent down. So they had to fully, fill this roster on their own. They had all their own people involved. Obviously when you have an NHL affiliated team like that, they usually, take care of all the costs and they provide all the staff, and, there could be local American Hockey League ownership, and there's, obviously maybe a few business people, but it's generally all the NHL teams providing all that. So the Wolves having to change everything with the changeover here. Obviously they have their own ownership, but basically the Hurricanes are supposed to be running and paying for everything. That's the deal as their NHL affiliated team. So the first move by the Hurricanes after the new affiliation agreement came to be official was to fire their GM, Wendell Young, and their head athletic trainer, Kevin Kaiser. Now, those two guys worked directly for Chicago, so they wanted to have their own people in place. That is not super shocking or not really a huge part of the story here. The problem is, though, is by firing the GM, Wendell Young, is the Hurricanes, who, of course, Don Waddell, who we just talked about in Columbus, had departed. He departs, right? So there's nobody in Carolina that really has any really serious amount of experience. They have a new GM, first-time general manager, Eric Tulsky, and we're not saying any of these people are bad or anything, because obviously I think they're brilliant minds, very analytically driven, lots of great, people there that are really, really, really wicked smart. But right now with the Hurricanes, there's nobody there with really any valuable experience in running an AHL team. And then you bring in owner Tom Dundon, who does notoriously have a little bit of a reputation for being a tad thrifty, we'll call it. It just makes for some chaos here so far. So they come in, they get this affiliated agreement, they clean house, so they're going to bring in their own staff, and right away there's no practice facility. So the reason why there's no practice facility right now is that the Wolves had a practice facility they were using, and there is one more year left on the agreement for that lease for them to continue with that. But apparently the Chicago Wolves are willing to basically hand everything over to the Hurricanes. They can make use of everything there, except that they have to pay the lease for this practice facility, and they don't want to do it. So there's a bit of a, I guess you could say a contract dispute, basically, with the facility that the Wolves previously used as their practice facility. So a year left on it, and the Hurricanes don't want to pay it. So we don't know where the team is going to practice. So that's a big question mark here ahead of the season starting. Apparently, the Wolves equipment staff were told to search the secondary market for used equipment, because there is some. The way it works down there is with the Wolves. They have to use so much of their own colors, and of course trying to incorporate Carolina into the mix here with their kits. So they've been told to search the secondary market for used equipment. Apparently the Wolves had new equipment, but the Canes didn't want to buy it. So of course, because they're the NHL affiliate now, they're supposed to cover all expenses. And again, they don't want to pay for the equipment apparently. So there's that. The other big thing here with this is that right now they've signed 6 players to AHL only deals, which right now only values those 6 contracts around $400K, whereas other teams on similar contracts are spending around $2 million. So other teams, like as we've talked about a lot of signings, there's a lot of NHL two-way deals where the AHL portion of the deal pays them, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, whereas the Canes they don't have anything like that. There's some that are saying that there is quite a comment as well from owner Tom Dundon saying that AHL games are just practice and that they don't matter anyway. That was a rumor that was a quote of his. Longtime Wolves coach, he's worked as a head coach and an assistant coach, Bob Nardella, suddenly quit on the team in August as well. He's been with the Wolves for a long time. And then after dealing with the Hurricanes front office here just in a short spell after getting this affiliation agreement in place, he decided he wanted no more of that. So for somebody to up and leave their job abruptly like that and to take themselves out of pro hockey without another job to go to because they found it so frustrating, that's not a good look either. So it's just a lot of chaos right now. So I hope that the Canes get their stuff together here, but 2 weeks out before everything gets really fully underway here with the season, and we're in a situation where they don't want to pay for the practice facility, so there's concerns there. They don't have proper equipment. They had a longtime Wolves person quit on them abruptly because he tired of the chaos, I guess. It just sounds like there's a lot of tension between the Canes and the actual ownership there of the Wolves. And yes, it was terrible last year. They didn't have their own dedicated affiliate. They finally get one, and here we are. And there's some people that were talking about the story, but there's an AHL source on this one saying that basically that if Don Waddell were there, this wouldn't be happening, and that essentially nobody else kind of knows what they're doing. So it's not a good look. It's not everything's confirmed, but that's the story out there about what's going on with the Canes and the tension with their new AHL affiliate. So it's certainly not a good look at all. Another couple other quick updates on some trade rumors I want to touch on quickly. Oilers, Bob Stauffer, talking about Edmonton Oilers on his social media here just this evening, saying that he does feel that the Oilers are going to trade for a top 4 defenseman sometime during the season. Looking at all their options, that he seems to be convinced that that's definitely going to be probably their primary target of how to make this team better. I do happen to, if you look at what could be on the market, for me, we've talked about this before, I think the perfect fit it's right there in the province already. And I think his name is Rasmus Andersson out of Calgary. I do honestly wonder if we could see a Battle of Alberta trade this year between those two clubs. Now, Craig Conroy might play hardball. I know he really played hardball, making moves with former Flames GM Brad Tree living in Toronto. I don't know if he would with the Oilers being such a rival or not, but in all honesty, for a team that's looking to make some more moves this year and shed some more veterans, and for a team that really needs to add a right shot top 4D, to me it just seems too perfect. But we'll see. I do believe Stauffer is definitely on to something. No big surprise there, but I really think that could make a lot of sense. And Flyers writer of The Athletic, Kevin Kurz, in his latest article really suggests we focus a lot on Flyers winger Joel Farabee as most likely being a player that gets in play here severely as the season gets underway. We talked about the fact that he had such a poor second half of the season last year that he really needs to find a role on his team and solidify himself early, or he feels that Farabee's trade likelihood is going to substantially increase. I think there were times this summer when he was definitely involved in some trade conversations. There was definitely lots of speculation and rumors back around closer to the draft or shortly into free agency that the Flyers and Sabres were having some intense conversations. I don't know how far things got, but I know the Sabres were definitely one of the teams that were interested in Farabee before, and that he feels, depending on how things start for the winger, that he could find himself in the rumor mill again here early in the season if things don't have a great start. Now, if he does have a phenomenal start and keeps scoring at a high pace or something, maybe they change their mind, or do they maybe even ramp things up and sell high. Either way, I think they have some concerns about the future of Farabee being a great fit there. They've seen him have a really tough second half and are seriously considering moving him. But like I said, this is not the first time his name has come up by a prominent writer or insider regarding a potential trade. I think that there were stuff earlier this offseason. I do wonder if that's something that could come through. I think he still has a lot of talent, and there would definitely be teams interested for sure. Just a matter of how things go. I mean, his contract to me is not terrible. One other quick note too on the Oilers, when wanting to add a top four defenseman, one other thing I forgot to mention was Stauffer feels that whoever they do add, it's not going to be a rental. They want to add somebody with term who can be there for at least a couple of years and really help them make a couple of runs here. That's another reason why I feel Rasmus Andersson would be a terrific fit. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.